Hello, this is the Fights Tonight podcast. I am Travis Bohemus here with my co-host Luis Romero. Luis, how you doing?
Good, Travis. Just waiting for these fights tomorrow. How you doing?
Good. Been scrambling, looking everybody up, seeing if there's any bets or parlays to be placed on it.
Nice. Actually, I ain't doing good, Travis. We just for the fans out there, I'm still learning this technical stuff. I fucked up our first two videos we recorded, and there was no audio. So now here we are doing the third one.
We're
But
learning on the job, as it were.
yeah, on the first two, I gave a shout out to Travis for getting promoted. He got promoted this weekend. I got to make sure that's out there. He got promoted to his green belt. It's the one he's been wanting for a while now. Super excited to see you get it. So big shout out to him.
Certainly the coolest color.
Yeah, not disagreeing. Not disagreeing. Who who's the who we got fighting this weekend, Travis? Who are your
Well,
bets?
the main event is Aspinall and Blades, a heavyweight fight, kind of a strange matchup. But we'll run through the prelims here real quick.
All right.
To start off, we've got a couple older guys. Claudio Silva, I believe he's 38, and Dalby, I believe, is 39. Both had a lot of tough fights, never made it too high up in the rankings or on the card. Definitely should be a good fight between the two. I'm leaning towards Silva. I think he might be a little bit more well-rounded, but wouldn't be shocked if Dalby came away with it. It brings us to Mandy, Baum, and Victoria Leonardo. Leonardo's had a little bit more mixed results, but has a little bit more experience. I am going to lean towards Baum on this one. Another one I'm not too confident in either fighter. They're both making such improvement. A lot of these people are so early in their career that you don't know if they come out learning all types of new skills, or
Right.
especially when they don't have as much experience, hard to know what you're going to get. It brings us to Jai Herbert and Kyle Nelson. Jai Herbert had that knockout that Dan Hardy got in trouble for yelling at Herb Dean about, where he got hit by Trinaldo with the left overhand and was down, clearly was done, and Herb Dean made him throw a couple extra punches to Herbert anyways. I will say, even though he's on a bit more of a losing streak than Kyle Nelson, he trains over there in Europe, which I think will work to his benefit, and a lot of his losses have been to really tough guys at 155, where there's no shortage of tough matchups. That brings us to probably the fight I'm the most confident in on here. It's a flyweight bout between Muhammad Mokayev and Charles Johnson. Johnson does have more experience, but this is his first fight in the UFC, where Muhammad Mokayev had won already and done really well in it. I believe he won by a submission. He's also undefeated, even though he's only had 7 fights, it looks like, with one no contest. He's just seems like one of those guys that you're going to be seeing more of, like Peter Yan when he was young, or O'Malley, where you're like, this guy is going to get moved up. You can see that they're hungry, and especially at flyweight, there's not a lot of top contenders that haven't been kind of on a decline lately, so it'd be a good place to have him move up.
Right.
I don't know enough about Johnson, but I'm going to say good chance of Mokayev getting it by finish too. So I may put that on my parlay to make up for it not having as many legs this week. That brings us to a featherweight bout between Makwan, Amir, Khani, and Jonathan Pierce. Both guys have fought a lot of the top names at 145. I want to say they both have fought Shane Burgos at some point, who was fighting last week. Pierce, I've been really impressed with. Amir Khani's got a little bit more experience at the top level, I feel like. I'm leaning towards Pierce on this one, but again, one that I won't have on my betting slip because of how even it is. Same goes for the next featherweight bout between Nathaniel Wood and Charles Rosa. Charles Rosa, another guy that's been in there with the who's who at 145. Nathaniel Wood's a bit more of a newcomer, but was more of a highly touted prospect, was the champion at 135, I believe, in Cage Warriors. It could have been at 145, but I think he was smaller and then came up. Had some pretty good stand-up, got some knockouts, and then has lost a couple of his last ones, but they were tough fights. I want to lean towards some of this being in his in his neck of the woods, but Rosa is going to be a tough fight. I could kind of see Rosa getting this done, but again, wouldn't be shocked if it went the other way. That brings us to Damir Hedzovic versus Mark Diakis. I can never
That's
seem
a
to get
hard
his
one.
name.
That's a hard one, bro.
Yeah.
For the
Every
fans
time I
out,
hear them pronounce it, it's a little bit different.
yeah, there's a lot of squigglies above all those letters, bro. I'm
Oh
not sure. I'm
man.
not even sure what those squigglies mean. Each one of them's different.
Yeah, so we're gonna call him Mark and Demir. Mark, I remember really liking his striking style. Real long and lengthy. Got some good kicks, good knockout power. He had that really tough fight with Fazeev where he stayed in it the whole time, but was taking some of the nastiest switch kicks to the body you've ever seen. Demir's a bit more well-rounded, but even though the records are the same, I feel like Mark's got a little bit higher level experience, especially being in there with guys like Fazeev. I'm going to lean towards him getting it done on this one, but just kind of if he sticks on the outside, uses his length, I could see him coming away with a decision. That brings us to the featured bout on the prelims of this card, which is Mason Jones versus Ludovic Klein, both at lightweight. Both have pretty impressive records. I'd say Klein's a little bit further along. Had some tough fights with some other guys that are maybe just in the top 30, but are really tough M1 champions and stuff. He's got some really good striking. He's out of Germany.
And
Um, Mason Jones is a little bit less experienced, even though they're like the same age. Mason Jones has got like half the fights that he does, but has fared a little bit better, as a few less losses. This is one I see being really close. Hard for me to bet against Klein just because I like a lot of the stuff that he does, but I might be leaning towards Mason Jones on this one. That brings us to the main card. As you guys heard Lewis say, his main parlay is Curtis, Pimlet, uh, Goldie, and Gustafson. That's not too far off from what I'm seeing on here. We've got Paul Craig and Uzdemir to open it up. Paul Craig's on a bit more of a win streak, but Uzdemir's definitely faced the higher level, faced Prochazka in his debut, who's the champ now, faced Daniel Cormier before that. So he's had some real tough fights, got some real impressive knockouts, real powerful hands. One of those guys that doesn't look that big or imposing, but really got some serious power, a lot of 20 and 30-second long knockouts on his record. Paul Craig, of course, more known for the submissions, one of the better grapplers out of Scotland. Represented them, I know, in some big jiu-jitsu tournaments. He's also got a last couple minutes of the fight submission, or I'm sorry, it was at 4 minutes and 59. So right before it ended, where he was getting beat up by Ankalaev and then caught him in that triangle. So Paul Craig, a guy that you can never sleep on, had a couple of sloppy fights with Shogun a while back, where obviously Shogun's a bit past his prime, but Paul Craig didn't look too horrible in parts of it. I am going to lean towards Uzmir on this one. He's had a tougher last couple fights, but I just feel like him facing the higher level, I don't know if Craig will be good enough to be able to get him down and get him where he needs him. I am going to lean towards Molly McCann a bit on the women's flyweight fight. She's definitely the only woman on the main card for a reason. She's very well liked along with Paddy the Baddy over there in England, and they seem to be good friends. McCann, of course, had that really sick spinning back elbow knockout in her last fight. Goldie could, use some wrestling on her and make this tougher than it needs to be, but with it being in England and McCann having a bit more experience, I'm going to lean towards her. That brings us to former UFC light heavyweight title challenger Alexander Gustafson versus Nikita Krillov. Both people real experienced. Both the records reads like a who's who of the 205-pound division. Krylov, of course, had a little bit more mixed results. Gustafson got to the title shot 2 different times, looked really good. His only recent losses were, to John Jones, had one to Cormier. He did his last 2 losses. He didn't look too great in, where he was taken down and submitted by Anthony Smith after a few rounds, and the one where he went up to heavyweight to face Fabricio Verdum. But he seems to have taken some time off. Perhaps gotten back in shape to be able to come back down to light heavyweight. And with how good he did before, it seemed like him and John Jones were the best of that division for a while before Cormier came along. Good chance that he could rise back up to the top pretty quickly. His last 2 wins were over Glover Teixeira and Jan Blachowicz, so 2 guys that held the belt previously. So definitely bodes well for him. I'm going to lean towards him. I don't know if he gets a finish, but I'm fairly confident he gets this victory over Krylov as long as he's somewhat like he used to be. That brings us to perhaps the fight of the night that's getting the most hype: Paddy Pimlet versus Jordan Levitt.
Yes. Loser is getting twerked on or teabagged on.
Yeah,
One of the two.
yeah,
Don't miss this one.
yeah. I saw that. Yeah, both guys are quite characters. Both guys have had a couple fights in the UFC and looked good in them. I think Levitt might have one more, but might have dropped a decision, whereas Pimblett's only had 2, one with a submission, one with a knockout. Pimblett more of a get you to the ground and get you in a flying triangle or a rear naked choke. Pimblett not always super polished on his feet. He's got a bit of a Chase Hooper thing where he's more of a
Yeah.
grappler and kind of tends to eat some pretty good shots early in the fight. Levitt's a bit more well-rounded. Obviously, doesn't have the hype behind him and stuff. I actually remember him coming out for a fight before and doing the splits and kind of doing like a twerk thing. So,
Yep.
I do think that he is serious about what he says.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past
Uh,
neither of them.
yeah, and I think Levitt is a good test. Even though he's only got half the fights, he's only lost once, and that was in the UFC, and has looked good in all his outings. I think he gives Paddy a hard time. I just think the crowd and the way that Paddy will take 10 shots and then swing a big one and get lucky or wrestle you down to the ground. Even though Paddy's missed weight a lot of times, it appears he made weight this time, and he is huge for 155. So
Yeah, bro.
his
Like,
and
I,
his takedown should be heavy.
I wonder what he walks around at when he's on the off season because you see him, bro, and he has like a triple chin going on. So,
Yeah, I heard they said he was getting at least up to 200. I mean,
oof.
that's a huge cut.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
I imagine the first month or two is just training to get where he should be walking around and then doing the cut. But still, he's missed weight like a handful of times over his career, like before the UFC.
Well, mad respect to him. He seems to be an inspiration to Paulo Casa, bro.
Yeah. He started off at 135, missed weight, went up to 145, missed weight. Now he's at 155. So we'll see if Paddy keeps growing. At least he is a pretty tall, long guy, so it doesn't seem to be work against him that much. So I do think he gets this done. Perhaps he could get something early, but I think more of a second or third round stoppage, maybe a decision. But wouldn't be shocked if Levitt gave him a hard time. This is definitely not like a walkover fight.
Right.
Um, Brings us to the co-main event. Your guy Chris Curtis versus Jack Hermansen.
Yeah.
Chris Curtis definitely had a bit of a tougher road, but is on a pretty good win streak since he's gotten into the UFC. Real serious power, surprisingly good kicks. Hermansen's a bit more of a grappler, and it's kind of got that thing where it's like if you're really worried about his takedowns and stuff, his striking works a lot better, so he can definitely be taken advantage of on the feet a little bit. He had some really good wins, over Jacare and guys like that. And then his last fight, he lost a split decision to Sean Strickland, which is why Strickland got the Pereira fight, and Hermansen is getting this one. That was the better option, seeing how what happened to Strickland. Um, I kind of am leaning with Lewis on this one, where Hermansen's faced the higher level of competition, even though he's not on the win streak that Curtis is. And he's a really good grappler, and there's a chance if it went to the ground, he could catch Curtis. But with it only being a few rounds, it doesn't give him a lot of time to work compared to the 5-round fights he's used to. And when he comes up against big, strong guys, he does seem like he can get kind of stalled out on the grappling a little bit. Whereas on the feet, he's really basic. He does have power, and he is fast. But I just think Curtis might be a little bit too dangerous and might be able to steal a decision and perhaps catch Hermansen with a big shot. But again, like the theme of this card, another one I'm not too confident in. That brings us to the main event, which of course is a heavyweight bout between the up-and-coming Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades has 3 losses on his record. They all came in the UFC. 2 of them were against Ngannou, where he got knocked out.
Ooh.
And so the only other loss is to Derek Lewis, where he also got caught with that crazy uppercut. He was shooting in. This was like a year or two ago. It was really viral knockout where he's going to shoot on Derek Lewis, and Derek Lewis throws this big uppercut, and Curtis Blades just falls stiff over to the side. But it's kind of a bummer because Blades had been working with Alistair Overeem a lot, who he actually fought and beat a while back. But like his striking was really looking a lot better. He was a really good wrestler, and that's where he got beat, obviously by Lewis and by Ngannou twice. Was on the feet. He's got power. He just seems to get caught with a good shot, and it's kind of over. It's just tough when you're getting hit by those guys.
Oh yeah. No, it just takes one shot.
Yeah, and Tom Aspinall. For only being a couple years younger, is definitely much earlier in his career. He was kind of having, good wins that were finishes, but they were, your Jake Colliers, Sergey Spivak, Andrei Arlovsky, guys that are kind of, if you're going to be anywhere in the top 10, you should be able to beat these guys at heavyweight. The one that was really impressive was the last time I believe they were in England, he went against Alexander Volkov, who's the one that just knocked out Rosenstrike.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Volkov was the heavyweight champ over in Bellator, and had always been like a top 5 guy. And so he went out there with Aspinall, and like a couple minutes, Aspinall caught him in like a straight arm lock,
Wow.
which was really impressive. So that's why he's getting like a big fight like this all of a sudden.
Yeah, definitely earned.
Yeah, he was looking really good like a handful of years ago, and then about 2016 he stopped, left MMA. Then he came back in like 2019, not long before the pandemic, and has been doing really good ever since then, getting almost all finishes, all early in the fight. Big, strong guy. I'm pretty sure he trains with Darren Till before Darren Till was training out in Sweden. Um, so I really want to lean towards him, especially with it being in England. The bummer is Blades is such a good wrestler. If it goes to the ground at all, even with Aspinall's submissions, I feel like Blades is big enough and strong enough to be able to stay out of them. And on the feet, while Blades' defense isn't the best, Aspinall's not, the greatest striker ever. And Blades does have power and is really long and does know how to use it. He just gets caught sometimes when he shoots for a sloppy takedown.
Right.
Um, he's only got a couple inches of reach, but he does have an inch of height and a good amount of weight on Aspinall. Aspinall's one of those guys walking around at 250. Blades is one of those guys that's cutting a lot of weight down to 265 to make the heavyweight limit. So I'm leaning towards him. Not that I couldn't see Aspinall perhaps getting a punch or a quick arm lock on their way to the ground, but I think Blades is just a little bit too experienced.
So for our fans out there, what's the parlay you're setting up, or what are the picks that you're for sure going to go with, or
Okay,
who's
so the
who's
picks
in
I'm
your
for sure.
favorites?
Yeah, definitely Muhammad Mokayev off the prelims. I'm even confident enough in him to where I think I'm going to pick him not just to win on the money line, but him to win by a finish. Maybe one of my parlays I'll have that, and the other one I'll just have a money line on him. Um, I'm also going with, let's see, I've got Alexander Gustafson. I've just got him on the money line. I don't know if he gets a finish over Krylov, but I see him winning that fight. I am going to pick Molly McCann for the third leg of this parlay. Um, and aside from that, I think I'm going to take the over 1.5 on Pimlet and Levitt. I just see it. I see Jordan Levitt being a really tough fight for Pimlet, and I think if the fight does get a finish, it's going to take them some time to wear down. So I don't see it ending until the end of the second, perhaps the third, if it does at all.
Right. That's
But
that's a
those
that's a safe
those are
one.
really the only ones that I'm looking at.
Okay, so you got those four. You got the a few money lines, and you got the over for Paddy. And then
Yeah.
for mine, I got Hannah Goldie, I got Chris Curtis, and I got Paddy Pimlet for my for sure one. Obviously, I'm going to make some adjustments on that and maybe switch up Hannah Goldie and Molly McKinn to try to get a few pennies or at least cover the money for the bet I'm placing. But with the 4 leg parlay, if you add Alexander Gustafson to it, with those 4 picks, if you do a $5 bet, it should make you 150. But Travis's are for sure the safer bet. He studies these fights, he watches them all the time. I'm just kind of guessing. I seem to get lucky. I got really lucky with Yair Rodriguez last weekend. So those are our fight picks for this weekend, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what we got. We're not as confident this week. These are pretty well matched, and people aren't as tried. But sometimes those are the ones that you do the best on. You
Yeah,
know.
you ain't wrong, Travis. You ain't wrong. Tomorrow, me and Travis are going to be at a pro show in Aurora. Go support our team. Who knows? We might post a video or something of the results from everyone from Colorado Jiu Jitsu Club. Really looking forward to the main event. We got Mr. Trevor Pohemus, Travis's brother, as the main event. Super exciting to watch. He's always getting finishes. So yeah, stay tuned. Hit the like and subscribe button if you guys are bored during the week. We have a whole bunch of episodes out on Spotify, or go check out our YouTube. Go listen to our last live fights. But yeah, from here on out, you probably see us making some more shorter videos with our picks, help you guys make a little bit more money, where you don't have to sit through the whole thing. If you're in a time crunch. But I think that's about it, right, Travis?
That's it, brother.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for the next one, and we'll see you later.